Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's me here, call me Cap, and today I'm with my cousin.
Flamafy.
So it's been a while, about a year since we did a tier list video.
Yeah.
So now that we're here, currently the Oilers, they just played the Dallas today, third round in the conference final.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can make it back to the finals and beat Florida because they're literally destroying
Imagine if
the
it's
Hurricanes.
imagine if it's a replay though. That would be insane. Okay, so let's get right into it. Starting with the Hurricanes.
The Avalanche. Yeah, he doesn't know any hockey teams. Don't mind him. He only knows the Canucks. Yeah, he just fully left. So we'll start off with her.
Did you do that? First one? Okay.
So the first team's up is the Carolina Avalanche. Bro, you're making me confused. It's Carolina Hurricanes, bro. Avalanche? Bro, what's the actual name for this? Let me Google.
Okay, so our first team is the Colorado Avalanche. So for me personally, I'm feeling more that they're like A to B type team, as they did make it to the first round of the playoffs. But fell short to the Dallas Stars by only 4-3. So that's not bad. They have good players like Kale McCarr. They have
Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah, Nathan McKinnon. So they have some good players over there.
They did manage to make the Dallas game into a seventh game.
Yeah, seventh game, and now Dallas is facing on the Oilers in the Western Conference Series. And so I feel like where I'm at is like in between A to B. If I would say like higher B and lower A, just because I feel like, or maybe even like just A, because I feel like they made to the playoffs, showing that they're a good team.
Nathan McKinnon, he was really popping off, especially on Team Canada during the Four Nations face-off. But right now we're talking about Avalanche, not the Team Canada. But otherwise, McKinnon also had a pretty good season.
What would you say?
I would say somewhere.
Like they're not like, I feel like if we're looking at these teams right here, like there's some they're better than some of them, but some they're
For now, I would say a B.
B. Yeah, we might change it, but yeah.
That's just a disclaimer right now. No hate to any team. We're just trying to do what we think right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
next up is Blackhawks.
Blackhawks, man, like
they didn't even make it to the
struggling.
playoffs. Yeah, they did very bad.
They were like last. They're kind of like the
They
Sharks.
did good at the beginning of the season. Like they did pretty
They're
decent.
like the
Then they
Sharks,
went
though.
downhill.
Yeah. They're like the Sharks. They're not that great of a team. They
Connor
have
Bedard.
Connor Bedard, but he's not been doing that well recently. And it's hard for him to do well when he doesn't have like the players to help him. After like Patrick Kane left and Taves left, and
Yeah, so I would say they weren't doing as good. They could have done much better. So I would put
like
D.
They're probably the worst team in the
one of the worst.
Yeah, they're probably one of the worst. Now Blue Jackets. Johnny Gaudreau, rest in peace. But I don't know.
I'm debating between like a C. I haven't really seen that much spotlights. So
I don't think
either
like
a C or a D.
I think
they're definitely better than like one of the worst teams.
Yeah, I feel like I would say like C.
Yeah, C.
Okay, now St.
The
Louis.
Blues, holy, the Blues were clutching and popping off at the end. Definitely A tier. Like they were doing so good.
Yeah.
They just barely lost to Winnipeg, but it's like other than that, I would say A tier.
Yeah, Boston. Okay.
Yeah, not B tier, A tier.
A tier.
Yeah, okay. I would say A tier. They did so good end season.
Okay.
Holy.
Yeah. Okay. So Boston. So after they lost Brad Marchand, they have not been doing that great.
Yeah, otherwise they were doing decent. I would say like a B, but then
yeah, they're probably like a B. Like if I had to put them, they're better than definitely Columbus, but I would say like they're behind Avalanche. Like they're probably in that area.
Ooh, next up is the Habs.
Now the Cabs, although They
had
had
a
a
s-
good regular
yeah.
season, but playoffs they just did not do well. They have a good roster with some good, like
They just
I
had lots of
guess young
potential.
talent. They have some young talent on their team,
Yeah,
I guess.
potential.
Yeah, and I think next season they'll probably do better. The Caps are a really good team. They're really solid this season.
Yeah.
They did a lot better than last season for sure.
Ovechkin, bro.
Yeah, Ovechkin,
He
that's
was
crazy.
popping off, getting
So
the
I
new
feel
record
like if I want to be honest with you,
over Boston.
they'd
Over
be here.
Boston, yeah, but under Avalanche.
They'd be like
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
I agree.
Now, my hometown team, my favorite team, the
Nah,
Vancouver Canucks.
Canucks are
Okay.
my second team. Oilers are
Canucks,
number one.
I gotta go with they
Okay,
had a
they
very bad season
yeah
this year
they
comparing
had
to
pretty.
last season. Last season, I would say they had a very good season. But it just seems like there's been like this like thing with them where it's like they do well, they do bad, they do well, they do bad, and it's just a repetition. They lost Rick Tocchet. They like they're I feel like their core players, were not performing. Like look at Elias Pettersson as an example. He was like the top rookie back a couple years ago, a few years ago, but now he's just underperforming. People are saying to trade him. We pay him like I don't know how much money, like
A
$8
lot.
million a year or something crazy like that. He's one of the most paid forwards probably in the league. But he's underperforming. We lost JT Miller, probably one of our best
Mm.
centermans on the team.
That was the worst idea by
And
Canucks. Give away Pedersen, save
yeah.
Miller.
And then Demko, like come on, like this guy I feel like he's been injured the entire season. He was injured up like since like the playoffs from last year.
From
And
the
then he came
Predators
back.
game.
He came back for like a few games and then he got hurt again. So I don't know what's going on with him. So this has just been a like a roller coaster of a ride. for the
Halfway through
Canucks.
the season, I would say Boston was way better, but now that Boston they were playing pretty bad, I would say Canucks would be ahead of Boston. But underneath
I
half,
feel like for me personally, if I have to if we're comparing it to like how I feel as a Canucks fan and how they performed, they've underperformed and it was a hard season to watch. So I feel like I'm kind of in between. Like, are they really a B team or could they even possibly be a C team? Because comparing to last season, they've underperformed and they did very bad. If you look at their record, it was like they almost had the same amount of wins and losses, which is not good to see, especially after a season like last year, like I've said before.
yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking in that area. I'm a Canucks fan. That's like my personal opinion. I think they're behind Boston. I watched a lot of their games, and just the way they played was not great.
Okay, so next is Washington. Washington had an amazing game this season.
Like I would say, right here,
Yeah,
or
definitely.
you know what? Like I feel like a lot of people could argue that they had comparing to last season, they had an S tier performance. Like the way they played, especially because I did not think that they were gonna be at the top of their division, and especially considering that they don't really have if you look at their roster, yes, they do have people like Ovechkin. They do have some other good forwards and defensemen, but you don't really think of them as a really good team, especially over the past years.
But somehow they pulled it
They
together.
pulled it off, and I would say they're an A team. I wouldn't say they were phenomenal this season, but I would say that they're
Yeah,
A.
definitely ahead of the Blues. So next we have the Devils. Devils, they somehow made it to
Yeah,
the playoffs
somehow, but
by pure luck.
yeah.
Like no clue how they made it. They played terrible and then good and terrible. It's like they were all messed up. So I would say C.
I would say C too. They're not a great team. Again, they're kind of they kind of remind me of the Habs, where they're all they're full of youngsters, right? They have some veterans, but they're mainly all youngsters, and I feel like the Habs did do a little better. The Habs, did a little bit better than them this season, and I don't know how they made it, like you've said before. So I would say C tier.
Yeah. So next up we have the Ducks. The Ducks, they I'm pretty sure they were last in the entire league.
Yeah, I think in the
Definitely D tier.
D
If there was an F tier, I would put it in F.
I would say they're probably better than the Blackhawks, but
Really?
I think so. Yeah, they were. Because if you look at their, that's from what I recall, but I'm not quite sure. I think maybe the Blackhawks were a little bit better. I'm gonna
Yeah,
put it
because
like
they
that.
had Bedard. They were scoring more goals at the beginning of the season.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and also remember what we're ranking is
Just based
only
off of
for
opinion,
this
it's not-
year.
yeah.
Yeah, it's from this year, not from like how in general they do.
Yeah, that's why it says 2024-25 tier list.
Yeah. Next up, we have Calgary, one
Yeah.
of our biggest rivals, the
Yeah.
Battle of Alberta. Even though I'm from here, Vancouver, don't really like the Canucks, and I would say Canucks would be Oilers' second nemesis team, but Calgary definitely number one. So Calgary they were doing really good at the beginning and mid season, but then they went downhill pretty much.
Yeah, and
I would say they did better than
Canucks.
Canucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better, and also better than Boston.
I would say, yeah, they probably had a better season than Boston and Canucks.
Yeah, so I would put them B tier.
Yeah, B tier.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a lot of B tier teams. As like, I feel like a lot of the teams this season were doing well, but they were like,
Yeah, most teams were doing relatively well compared to like last
years
season
prior,
and like before that. But still, were compared to other teams, they were like
yeah.
mainly B. So next we have the Flyers.
I do not recall watching.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm gonna be
don't.
completely honest. I do not watch like some of these teams. I've like not watched like a single game. Like so, the Flyers is one of them. Like I do not recall really much about their season, but from what I remember, they're kind of probably like kind of in the C range. I don't recall them being like.
Yeah, I haven't watched a single Flyers game.
So I want to say just to be safe, I'm gonna put it here.
No clue.
No clue.
Haven't watched any single game. Haven't seen the Flyers or the Red Wings game.
To be honest
Those
with you,
two.
I haven't even seen like I think Canucks played them a couple times, but
Or Sabres. I haven't even seen Sabres at all.
Okay, so we're gonna go with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Vegas.
Next.
They had a really good challenge, but like Oilers, they just smoked them in second round.
Yeah,
4-1 series win for the Oilers. But Vegas, they were doing really good. Definitely A tier.
Yeah.
I would say behind the Blues.
No, I would say no, because if you look at it like.
Yeah, but they weren't popping off like the Blues, you know? Blues, like, they weren't making the playoffs, but then, like, they had like a 10-game, like, win streak.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. If it wasn't for the Oilers who stopped that streak,
yeah.
My Oilers.
Yeah.
And
so
then
I would
like,
say,
holy.
yeah, I would probably agree with you. Although I do think that the Vegas Golden Knights are a better team than the Blues, if you're looking at season-wise, I feel like you probably have a point. They probably did do. Blues probably did do better than the.
Yeah, but throughout the whole season, like, I would say Vegas was like a little bit more.
But I think,
But end of season, definitely popping off Blues, so I would give that edge to Blues there. If there was ever a matchup between Blues and Vegas, I would say Blues are probably gonna win it.
Okay, so now we have the Hurricanes, the team that we were mixed up with.
Hurricanes, you're getting smoked by Florida.
Okay, so they smoked Capitals, right? 4-1. So that was crazy. But then now they're getting smoked by Florida. So I would say like at this point, if we're looking at
the
this,
fourth game.
If we're looking at this right here, I would.
They were doing good, but like
they're in front of Caps. I would say.
Yeah.
If you look at it, they
smoked Cap 4-1. Like they were doing really good. I just don't know. They're not locked in.
They're not a really. I wouldn't say they're much of a playoff team. And if you think about it, from what I've heard, they haven't been in the Eastern Conference Finals for like almost 13 years now.
Yeah,
which
it's been a long time.
Crazy. Like they've made it to playoffs, but they haven't made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I would say they're having a pretty good season, but right now they're not doing well.
Panthers, they're just like smoking the Hurricanes.
Okay.
But next we have the Islanders. I do not recall watching any Islanders.
So from what I remember is like, they're I think they did. I don't recall either, but I want to say like they kind of had like a.
I feel like they would do better than Flyers and Columbus, but I don't think they would do as good as the Devils.
I mean, I think they did a little. I think they did better than Devils. From what I recall.
Really? Because Devils, they made it to playoffs.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're right.
So I would say behind Devils, in front of Columbus. But remember, we haven't watched like some of these teams. Yeah. We're really big hockey fans, but like some games, we haven't really watched.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, next we have the Winnipeg Jets.
This was like, I feel like this was probably one of my.
I was so sad when they lost to Dallas.
Especially because of Scheifele's dad. That was sad.
Yeah, that was so sad. That last game too.
Yeah, okay.
So I would say because of that, I would put them at high B tier.
Yeah.
Or low A tier. Put them in A tier because they did really good in the playoffs.
I would say like they did well. Yeah. And considering that like they beat the Blues, like that we put on A tier, And considering that, although they lost to
Yeah, the
these
Blues game and the Winnipeg, that was
although they
game 7.
lost to the Dallas Stars, I would say like they didn't lose by like
That
a
much.
big margin. It wasn't like a blowout.
Yeah,
And I
it was a
appreciate their
close game.
efforts, yeah. And they went to overtime
I would
too,
say
so
they're
that's good.
behind Blues in front of Vegas. So like they just had an unlucky
Yeah.
series against
Yeah.
Dallas, but Blues like they popped off at the end. So
Yeah.
I would say it was unlucky for the Blues in Game 7 with Winnipeg,
Yeah.
but it was like Winnipeg. Yeah, I can't really say much. But next we have the Kings. Wow, guys, 4 years in a row, Oilers smoked the Kings. Not
Yeah.
smoked, but like we're the undefeated champions against the Kings.
I would say the Kings, surprisingly, like usually like when it's Kings versus Canucks usually do better. And I'm looking at this because I'm looking at our like rankings, and I'm gonna say like if we look at it here, okay, so
I would
did
say
better than
behind
Canucks.
the Habs.
They did better than they did better than these three teams.
Yeah, they didn't do much better against the Habs. Like they didn't have that much like.
But the Habs got swept. Here's the thing: Oilers are in the Western Conference Finals, and they're probably gonna go to the finals. And considering that they only lost 2-4, and the games were pretty close, and they were leading the series, I would say that they probably are a better team than the Habs. And again, this is just based on my opinion.
Habs has a lot of potential. That's the thing.
Yeah, but
They
if we're
have
looking
lots
at
of
this
young
season-
talent.
If we're looking at this season, I want to say like they're a little bit better.
Yeah,
because
maybe.
if we look at the series, like, I mean, I like at the beginning of the series against the Oilers, I thought they might actually win, but then of course it's Edmonton. They have like all the best. They have like the best player in the world. Connor
Yeah,
McDavid,
Pickard came back in because
Yeah.
Skinner played terrible
But
that
he's
season.
doing good right now.
Pickard.
He's doing good right now, Skinner.
Yeah, the thing about Skinner, like I'll tell you when it comes to the Oilers.
Okay.
I'll save it for later. But next we have Krakens. Krakens, I remember watching a few games. It was like against Toronto, against Oilers, and like against Pittsburgh. They did all right. I agree. I would
they're
say like high
C.
C.
Because here's the thing, like they did worse than Canucks, right? And Canucks are probably last to B, like they're lower than B. They're like the bottom B. But I would say like they're better than Kraken, but I think Kraken's like a high C because
Yeah.
if you look at their season was very they were kind of like the Canucks, like they didn't do good. They didn't do bad.
Actually, I feel like the Devils did a bit better because the Devils made it to playoffs.
Yeah. So I think
So yeah, I would say switcheroo there.
yeah. Okay.
And
next
then
up.
we have Tampa. Oh my God, Tampa! So much potential, Tampa.
Yeah.
They could have beaten the Panthers, but they just got smoked 4-1.
Yeah.
So I would say there would be like a B tier. I would say in front of Calgary, in front of Habs, and
In
actually in
front
front
of
of Kings too. Like I no, cause Kings.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, I would say right there. I agree.
Yeah.
But the Leafs, Game 7. Oh my
Oh,
God, they
yeah.
fumbled that game so hard.
They could have honestly. They could have.
They could have beaten the
Eastern
Panthers.
Conference, yeah, but like another thing is like, Leafs. They're not a very when it comes to like, when it comes to their most important game, they always fumble. Like they fumble under the pressure. I feel like.
Yeah.
Like if you look at like the past 4 years, they've never gotten. Past
Remember, we're
the
talking
second
about
round.
this season.
Oh, I know, but I'm just comparing this like
Okay.
to other seasons. Like this is kind of like a repetition of what we've already seen, and I feel like, they're probably
They're definitely, I would say like a low A.
yeah. I would
Low
say
A,
probably
better
here.
than Winnipeg, I would say. Probably
say-
better than Blues.
No,
I would
I would say like if you look
better
at
than
it,
Vegas. They're definitely better than Vegas.
yeah, I would say better
Yeah,
than Vegas.
better than Jets. Jets had a really good punch into their games.
But I feel like with Jets, I would say like worse than Blue. No, okay, wait, we gotta change this A thing because I feel like the Blues.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, put it. Just like put it right there.
For now, put it
Put
here.
it now, but I feel like if you look at it, okay, these two are good. But
Yeah.
then when we get to here, it's like okay, so you think about it. Okay, we're getting a little off track, but let's just stay here for now. So, if you look at this, I feel like okay. So Blues, we said that they were
popped
popped off
off.
at the end.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at the so
Yeah,
if
if we look at the
this,
first
if you look at
round.
this, the Winnipeg did beat them.
Yeah,
making
they
them a better
did. That's
team.
true.
And then if you look at Toronto, they almost like
Yeah,
and then
they
if you look
almost
at
beat the
Blues,
Panthers.
Blues, if we look at their
Yeah, they
series,
managed to make it into a game 7.
they
If we check out the Blues, Like they had really good games. For an example, Winnipeg would beat them by like 1 or 2 goals, but then the next game
Yeah,
they beat
7-2.
Winnipeg 7-2 and
That
then
was really good.
5-1.
Yeah.
Like that was insane. They were popping off.
I would say
Just
this is
that
good.
last
This is
second
good.
overtime
This is
game.
good. This is good. Okay, now
Yeah.
the
I
next
would
team.
say
The next
I would say maybe Toronto over
No, I'll
Blue.
just leave it like that. I feel
Yeah,
like
okay.
Toronto just the way like they kind of just fumble
Mm.
sometimes, and
Okay, then next we have my Edmonton Oilers S tier right away. No
no.
explanation. Yeah, I hope they make
They're
it to
gonna
the.
be they'll be there. They'll be there. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna say high S. I want to say high S tier because if
I
you
would
look at
say
their
low S. I
season,
would say low S because they made it last year to the finals.
we're looking at this.
This year, they're most likely and they're in favor of making it to the finals. Lots of predictions are saying that Oilers are gonna win the cup this year. Because if you look at Florida, 2 years ago they lost in the finals. Then last year they won. That last year Oilers lost, and if the pattern is continuing, this year should be the year that Oilers win. That's if the pattern continues.
Analytically, but I would say to be honest with you, S tier might be a little big to say. Like if you look at their season this season, like you've watched them.
Yeah, I watched
They-
every single
they-
game.
They started like every season. I feel like I've watched them. They start off slow.
Yeah,
And
they
they do
always
good.
have a slow. They even till in the playoffs when they were until they were versing Vegas, they were sleeping in first and second period. They would only wake up third. Only when
I
we
would
beat
say
Vegas and
an
moved
ST
on to the Dallas game is when we stopped
I
that
feel like
habit.
an S tier team would be a team that who did good overall in the entirety of the season,
Okay.
which the Edmonton was. They did good at the end. Of
Yeah,
course,
at the
and they're
end
doing
they
good right
popped
now.
off. Yeah.
But I would say they're the high A, and I would say they'll probably beat every other team that's on here
Mm-hmm.
on the scale. They're probably like I would say, in my opinion, they're probably the best team, like in the entire NHL, like kind of like tier list, right? If we're looking at it,
Yeah. Then we have Florida, the competition. Florida
I
probably
just think, oh, oops, I would say
probably
it there.
no. I
would
would
say-
probably put Florida as S.
Really,
Yeah, Florida,
I
like
would
they had a
say-
really good 2 seasons. Like
yeah. but if
even
you
the
look at
season
this-
before, 3
yeah.
seasons in a row.
I'm just
Yeah.
impressed on how they're playing like right now, like against
Yeah, they're
Carolina. Like,
cooking
they're
Carolina
sweeping
and
them.
stuff, but like
If I put them on S tier, I'll put Oilers on S tier.
yeah, I would put it
I'll
like
put
that
like
too.
that. Okay, you're good
Yeah.
at that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we'll
And
do-
then we have Sidney Crosby's team, the Pittsburgh Penguins.
they're honestly, to be honest with you,
They
if
did good. Sidney Crosby did good in the Four Nations, but like not. He could have done better. He had good
they're, like,
highlights
here,
during.
but I don't know where.
No, I would say like
not
they're
good.
ahead of Boston.
No, because
Really?
really, I did not think they had a good season. Like I don't really.
Yeah, they didn't have that good season, but like they still had really good plays. Like the good games were like really good games.
So
So
like
like
here,
I would say ahead of Boston. Not as good as Calgary, but like
here,
yeah, somewhere there.
I'm kind of feeling putting Canucks here.
Why? Canucks they were doing really good at the beginning of season. They
Yeah.
were like first in our league ahead of Vegas and like Oilers and Kings.
Okay.
Oilers had a very
So,
best start.
Let's do Nashville. Okay, Nashville.
The Predators.
They did not make it to the playoffs this season, and I mean, I feel like they kind of had like
They had a slow start, good mid, and then it's like bad, kind of like a bad end, like slow end. Like they had a rocky
I'd
end.
say they did better than Canucks.
Yeah,
they're
better
probably-
than Canucks, but I wouldn't say they did better than Calgary. So I would say in front of Pittsburgh.
Like there.
Yeah, I would say somewhere there.
Okay.
But I haven't watched that many Sabres games.
Okay.
Then New York Rangers.
They actually had a surprisingly when JT Miller came. Like I saw them popping off. Like,
Yeah, they were doing so good with
but
Miller.
I think like another thing, like they were doing good with Miller, but I think the team overall still was kind of struggling. Like they were getting the goals in, but they were still like I feel like once they got Miller, although they won a few games, like they still ended up losing like quite a
Yeah.
bit. And from looking what I remember, they did not have a good season.
Yeah, only near the end when they had Miller, like
I think they
Their game.
improved, but like
they improved, but still weren't that good. So I would say
I want to say like
I would say B tier. No, C tier behind the Devils.
No way. 'Cause
Really?
I
Yeah, you're right, because they did better. Devils, they didn't have.
I
I
would
would
say,
say
like-
behind Canucks. I would say behind Canucks. Canucks did.
Yeah.
Because Canucks, they were fumbling at the end. Like, they were
I'll say
fumbling big
that.
time.
I'm
I was-
a Canucks fan. I would say that.
I mean, at the end, they were doing really good, better than these three.
Really?
Yeah, like, because Miller, they were doing really good with Miller.
But
Like, they really
Preds-
used Miller.
Okay, well, Preds I can't really remember much. So I'm gonna put that based off of you. So if you put them in front of Preds, I won't get upset about that. But Pittsburgh, okay, but Boston,
Somewhere here,
it's
somewhere here.
in between those three. teams. I
Yeah,
don't know.
these three are pretty even.
Like I feel like if you compare like these four teams that we have right here, Canucks,
Yeah.
Boston, they're all like, I would say like in put it down. I think the comments would
For that
fucking
S
mad.
tier. Everyone, come on. Miller's making a big change for the Rangers.
Yeah, they're gonna win the Stanley Cup. Okay, no, I would say if I had to put it there, I would put them.
I would
okay.
say in front of Boston. I would say in front of Boston. Just to be safe in the middle.
Yeah, in the middle. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know.
Next, we have Red Wings. I'm
I
surprised
don't really
that
know.
I'm
I-
surprised that they didn't make it to the playoffs. They had a pretty good end season, slow mid, but like beginning of the season they were doing all right.
Yeah.
So this is based off what I remember. I haven't watched too many Red Wings game as I've mentioned before, but it's like based off what I remember, they were doing all right.
I would say.
I would
like,
say like better than Predators
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, like right here.
Oh, wait,
Calgary's they did
Flames.
pretty good.
Flames.
Yeah, they almost made it to the wild card.
Yeah.
They almost
Yeah,
did. If it
okay.
wasn't for like Avalanche and
Yeah, okay.
then next we have Sabres. Sabres, I have no clue. Haven't watched a single Sabres game.
I would say from what I recall, again, like
Like
I would say like
somewhere
they're
here.
like they're probably I think they're a bet. No, wait, give me that.
Okay.
thing. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so I would say so they did better than they're probably in the C range.
Yeah,
what I
not better
recall.
than Devils. Devils, they made it to the thing. I don't think they did as good as
In there.
Islanders.
There.
Krakens, I feel like had a better punch in their game. Like if we look at the overall scores, like within a game, like I feel like Kraken.
Okay, I'm gonna go with you because I didn't really watch much, so I would say
Yeah,
that.
me neither. But I've watched like 2 games,
Yeah.
and that was like Sabres versus like Calgary, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
like-
Senators.
Senators,
they had a good season.
yeah, they had a really good season.
I'm surprised they didn't
Surprised
make it to the playoffs. Honestly,
they did make it.
They did. Oh yeah, they did.
it's
make it.
against
Yeah.
Toronto where they lost.
Okay, so they had a better season. Canucks.
Yeah, like they were doing
Boston.
pretty good.
So I would say they did better than like I would say
No,
like,
they did better than Calgary behind Habs.
Habs. No,
Yeah.
Habs.
Habs, they had a lot of potential.
Yeah, but if you
Was
look at the series, well, I mean, would you say that? Yeah, it's okay. I would say.
Actually, because like if you think about it,
if you look at
Habs against Washington makes sense that Washington would
I would
smoke.
say there.
If it was like Habs versus anyone else, the Habs would have done better.
Logo's so much smaller. It's tiny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have the Sharks.
Worst team, probably. I would say.
Yeah,
like,
one of the worst team.
Probably the worst team in the league.
Yeah, the
I would say
worst.
the worst team.
Dallas,
They
they're
had
having.
Celebrini. They had Celebrini, but
Yeah, next we have is Dallas. They had a really good punch this season. I would say either A tier first
it's
thing
it's
or
A tier.
S tier. Because Dallas, like with Ottinger, Rantanen, like they're popping off. Like surprise, Rantanen did so good with the Dallas. Honestly, I would put them S tier. Dallas, like they had such a good punch this season. Every
Okay.
game,
I
like
mean, you are watching the Edmonton series, so I could. agree
yeah,
with you,
like
so-
half the time I would be so surprised how fast and like strong they are. They're a very physical team and stuff. So yeah, I would say they would be S tier behind the Oilers.
Okay.
Carolina Hurricanes, like they're good, but like they're getting
They're-
smoked. So I would feel like they're a good A, high A, like the leaderboard of the A.
Okay. So Utah, they were probably the worst. one of the
Yeah,
worst
they were
teams.
also pretty bad. I feel like they did better than Blackhawks. Like
I
they
would
had
say
more
probably here.
punches.
Yeah, probably,
Like they surprisingly
Actually-
beat Oilers
actually,
twice.
I would probably actually never mind. I'm gonna not say D. I'm not gonna say C. I'm gonna say like probably
No, no, I feel like the Islanders did better. So I'd
Okay.
feel like ahead of Columbus, but like behind the Islanders.
yeah, there.
And then we had Wild. Wild, like they were the leaders, and like they somehow surprisingly lost to Vegas in the first round.
I would say like they probably are like.
I would say A, like behind Vegas.
But then I would argue that like these teams would be like A's, like Los
Yeah, you're
Angeles and
right.
teams like that.
I would say
probably
behind
like,
Kings. I would say behind Kings.
yeah,
Better
behind
than
Kings.
Tampa.
Yeah.
Tampa, surprisingly, they got smoked. I
Yeah.
thought Tampa would have much better game
Yeah.
with the Panthers, but surprisingly, Leafs did better than Tampa.
Okay, guys, so that's gonna conclude our video. Comment down below if you agree with this, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Once again, thanks so much for watching. And if you have any questions or anything, or why we selected something in its different spot, or even if you do have different opinions or anything, please comment down below what you guys think, and we'll take into consideration for the next tier list, because this is our first tier list in like a year since we made it.
Okay.
So thank you guys so much, and once again, peace out.
Peace.